Hey there, guys, and welcome to another week of World War II, number 67, December 7th, 1940. The Road to Moscow. German invasion plans. Now, I cannot remember the exact date of the start of the German, of Operation Barbarossa, so, you know what? I guess I'll be surprised when. Now, there'll probably be enough build up for me to be like, oh, all right, so we're going in approximately a couple weeks or something. I think, what, start of spring is roughly when they started the invasion, I guess. What I remember, maybe? I don't know. I'm not good with dates. Anyways, let's dive in.
Really? You think he could? You think he could someday win? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he's Catholic. Okay. December 7th, 1940. Adolf Hitler has told his command for months that he wants to attack the USSR in 1941, and rough plans have been made for such an invasion. This week, though, the German High Command starts getting serious. I'm Indy Nidell. This is World War II. Last week, the Japanese tried and failed to push back the Chinese nationalists with their Han River operation. There was skirmishing in the Mediterranean, civil unrest in Romania, and the Greek counteroffensive continued to push back the Italians. Here's what follows. On the 5th, Adolf Hitler speaks about his plan for attacking the USSR and stresses that it's more important to capture Leningrad and Stalingrad than Moscow, since the former are Bolshevik breeding grounds.
I mean, he ain't wrong.
Some of his generals strongly disagree, but everybody agrees that the USSR will be easily defeated. The Red Army is leaderless, General Franz Halder told the gathering. The Russian soldier was mindless. The Red Army was as inferior in weapons as the French army had been. The lack of modern Russian field batteries gave the German panzer a free hand. The Russians had nothing but badly armored units to oppose the German armor. The German army would split the Russian forces into separate pieces, thereby strangling them by encirclement.
I mean, that is kind of how it
gathering
will go.
is a meeting of Hitler and his high command at the Chancellery to discuss the plans that OKH, Army Command, and OKW, Armed Forces Command, have been separately preparing since August and June, respectively. Both plans agree that surrounding the Red Army near the Soviet borders is the recipe for success. The danger of engulfment by the vast spaces of the Russian interior had dominated German general staff thinking since the previous century, when Napoleon's failure to defeat the Russians in their borderlands had first drawn him to Moscow and then condemned him to drag the Grand Army back again through the winter snows. Hitler, too, recalled the retreat from Moscow, which had destroyed the Grand Army, but he believed the Red Army could itself be destroyed by deep armored thrusts through and behind its frontier positions, creating cauldrons in which its fighting units would be rendered down to inert pulp. The OKH plan is pretty much a blueprint for this, with panzer spearheads and circling Red Army pockets. Halder advocates this plan with great emphasis on taking Moscow at an early stage of the battle for several reasons.
Now, what constitutes an early stage here? Because Moscow's far away. Like, I'm trying to understand the German general thinking here, but like, I'm gonna say it. Hitler's right. Why are you focusing on Moscow? It didn't work for Napoleon. How is it gonna?
Under Stalin, all authority is concentrated there. The transport system, the railways, are centered.
Okay. From the argument of it being the railways, that one makes sense. That's the only reason, but it's still so fucking far away that it doesn't make much strategic sense. Like, the resource. No. Go for Stalingrad. Get the oil. Focus on that first. Then go for Moscow.
there, and German intel estimates put much of the country's war industry there. Now, that last is actually faulty intelligence, but the first 2 points are valid. So Halder is disturbed that Hitler is more and more drawn to the OKW plan that delays a drive on Moscow until the Baltic and Ukrainian cauldrons have been dealt with. The 1812
Ukraine is where the food is. In the Baltic is where the oil is. Go for that.
factor is important, though, and the German generals are well aware of it. Fedor von Bock even tells Hitler on the 3rd that the USSR was an enormous country whose military strength was unknown, and such a war might be difficult even for the Wehrmacht. And there are going to be serious transport issues and technical problems getting to the White Sea, the Caspian Sea, and the Volga River. Hitler's archangel Astrakhan.
Oh wait, I misspoke. Not the Baltic. I meant the Black Sea. Where the oil is. Oopsies. Well, someone's gonna probably get pissy because I misspoke there.
Online, where he figures an advance 2 would trigger Russia's collapse. But all of the high command do agree that war with the USSR is inevitable, and most welcome a battle against what they see as Germany's Bolshevik and Slav enemies. Well, now the work starts being done to transform the plan into a further directive. But one possible invasion that may take place sooner is that of Gibraltar. We've talked a bunch about German thoughts and plans for Gibraltar before, either the idea of having Spain join the Axis powers in the war, or allowing German troops to go through Spain to attack Gibraltar. Well, this week, Hitler is making one last try. On the 7th, Abwehr Chief Wilhelm Canaris meets Francisco Franco in Madrid, ideally to get him to agree that German forces should begin moving through Spain within a month. Franco refuses. As I've said before, Canaris has actually been actively trying to keep Franco and Spain from Germany and is working for Germany's defeat in the war. And he's already come under a lot of suspicion for his actions.
Ew.
General Munoz Grandes accused Canaris outright of persuading Franco to stay out of the war. Other sources alerted Gestapo senior officer Walter Huppenkotten to Canaris' actions. The Gestapo certainly passed these reports on to Heinrich Himmler, but Canaris, not for the first time, survived mere suspicions. And not for the last time, Himmler, faced with evidence implicating Canaris in high treason, refrained from further investigations. Thing is, Franco
How the fuck is Canaris so goddamn lucky, dude?
knows his people are in no way ready for a new war just after the ravages of the Civil War that ended last year. And to him, an attack on Gibraltar would require Spanish forces to carry out the operation as a matter of honor. Germany, though, is unwilling to provide Spain the weapons and supplies to make such an offensive. There is also the rather big point that the British are paying Franco's generals millions of dollars in secret bribes to keep Spain neutral.
Oh,
And without Germany defeating Britain first, Britain can easily set up a naval blockade of Spain, cutting off the supplies from the USA that are essential for Spanish survival. I like the way Max Hastings phrases it. British sea power exercised an important, though invisible, influence upon events. It might also have a visible one. On the 3rd, Britain announces that it has placed an order with U.S. shipyards for 60 merchant ships. But Britain is not just making plans for the seas. On the night of the 7th, a patrol by a British armored car unit verifies details of a gap in a specific Italian minefield in North Africa. And so, the first major British land advance of the war begins in secrecy. Wait, what? You may be asking. The answer lies in the future. There are land advances this week, though, that I must address. The Greek counteroffensive against the Italian invaders continues. On the 4th, Greek forces enter Premeti. On the 5th, the Greek Second Corps breaks into Albania, and the 6th, the Greek advance up the coast continues, taking Saranda, a major Albanian port. Further east, the Greeks capture the Suhe Pass and the heights around Kakavia Pass. But the weather is not good for fighting, and the counteroffensive might be running out of steam. One thing about this Italo-Greek war is that it is really diverting Italian resources from Africa, where they have already been needed and will be even more necessary in case of any British offensive. The Italians are sending many times as many men to Albania as they are to North Africa, and by now have assigned 10% of their merchant fleet to supply Albania, tying up 94 ships. The last 3 months of this year, 15,711 men are sent from Italy to Africa by ship. 153,850 go by ship to Albania or Greece during that same time period. But Italy is, of course, at war in both regions. Though you can really see how priorities change, back on November 1st, Italian Army Chief of Staff Pietro Badoglio, a top Italian leader even back in World War I, had said at a general staff meeting that Rodolfo Graziani's Italian September offensive in North Africa, which had stalled and had been accumulating supplies since for another attack, meant little, and the important problem now was Greece. But up until then, he had been worried by the British buildup in Africa, and Naval Chief of Staff Domenico Cavagnari had urged him to focus there because victory there would make everything fall into place. Well, times change, and Graziani's pleas for more men and material in Africa went unheeded. And things still have gone bad so far in Greece. Thus, this week, Badoglio is out as Chief of Staff and is replaced by Ugo Cavaliero. There was great dissatisfaction, which Mussolini could not divert from himself by firing Marshal Pietro Badoglio, the Chief of the General Staff, instead of his son-in-law, Count Ciano, whom many Italians blamed for pushing Italy into the Greek adventure. Cavagnari, by the way, is also replaced as Navy Chief of Staff in a few days by Arturo Riccardi. There is more news this week from the Italian peninsula, actually, though not from Italy itself. On December 2nd, the Vatican speaks out against Germany's T4 program, Germany's euthanasia program for people deemed too mentally or psychologically sick to be allowed to live, calling it contrary to natural and positive divine law, and that the direct killing of an innocent person because of mental or physical defects is not allowed. But this year,
took you long enough, Mr. Pope. Took you a while, huh?
1940, nearly 10,000 people each are killed at the centers Grafeneck, Hartheim, and Brandenburg. That's of a yearly overall total of around 35,000 people. The Brandenburg and Grafeneck operations wind down as the year does, partly because they've done a fairly thorough job, and partly because of public opposition. There are many medical personnel and clergy in Germany who protest at the practice of euthanasia as being barbaric. Some such protests have even reached the ears of Adolf Hitler. But the program does not end, though this week does, with Greek advances into Albania and German plans for future ones into the Soviet Union. Something I haven't had a chance to talk about the past few weeks. American ambassador to the United Kingdom, Joseph Kennedy,
I wonder who his sons might be.
Who has several children that seem very interested in politics.
Whoa, no way.
Resigned after he gave a newspaper interview to the Boston Sunday Globe saying that democracy is finished in England November 10th. He added, and it may be here. Kennedy's position, re the war, stands in direct contrast to that of American President Franklin Roosevelt or British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Even after the Battle of Britain had begun, Kennedy hoped for a personal meeting between himself and Adolf Hitler to sort things out between Germany and the States. And he rejected Churchill's belief that compromise with Germany was impossible. He argued strongly against sending economic and military aid to Britain, since he very much believed that Britain would fall, and the only reason to send anything would be to buy time for the States. It seems, though, that not only shall Britain not fall anytime soon, but the States have plenty of time without buying any more because Germany has its focus on the USSR. It's interesting to think that with Britain still active, Germany could one day have a 2 or even 3 front war. But I suppose that could only happen if the German plans for the Soviets don't play out. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I guess we'll just have to.
If you'd like to learn more...
And that was week 67 of World War II, December 7th, 1940. The road to Moscow, German invasion plans. This was one of those weeks where Stuff is being set up, but nothing really to talk much about. More stuff that we've kind of already talked about. Why am I yawning? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.